Awesome. Welcome in, everyone. Hello, hello. My name is Christian Brown. I'll be your moderator today as we talk about nurturement, the intersection of food, emerging technologies, and well-being. And so I'm super excited for this panel. It's such an important time for this summit. So thank you, GatherVerse team, for hosting this 37th Global Summit. It's so incredible. And so today we'll talk about food and well-being. And first, I just want to open up this panel with a fact that I was reading earlier today. It talked about how food is now recognized as one of the strongest predictors of anxiety, depression, emotional regulation, and cognitive performance. And so there's a clear link between food and global well-being. And so I'm excited to talk with everyone on this panel and kind of dive deeper into this intersection. So let's open this panel up just with introductions. How about we go around the room and have a short introduction of everyone, and then we'll get into our first question. So Adam, hello there. Let's start with you. Great to see you again.
Great to see you too. Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Yasmin, and I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm a former UX designer turned digital well-being advocate, and I've been a student of Chinese tea culture for the last 16 years. And these days, I facilitate what I call slow tea, which is an homage to Gong Fu tea. I do that essentially with tea as a service. So essentially team building, on-site and off-site experiences for corporate partners and clients, as well as a lot of local community engagement here in Northeast LA.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Adam. Let's go with Ian. How are you, Ian?
Hi, I'm Ian Khan from South Korea. I wish this panel was conducted a bit earlier. I mean, this is 3 a.m. in the morning here.
Oh, wow. Dedication. Thank you.
I'm honored to be here. And in terms of education, I think, food is plays lots of a big role. So I'd like to give you some insights about that in terms of cognitive science and education. So I think education could play a big role, in enhancing human nutrition. So, okay.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thank you for joining at 3 a.m. We appreciate your presence here. Let's go with Lynn. How are you, Lynn? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Hello, good to see you again.
Likewise.
I'm Lynn. I am Shamama Lynn, and I am founder and creator of Cosmic Rose Wellness and former aerospace engineer, blending science and spirit. And relevant to this conversation, I'm plant-based since 2017, which I never would have thought growing up a meat and potatoes girl in Minnesota. And part of Cosmic Rose Wellness is what I'm calling Cosmic Rose Eats, which is online plant-based recipes and cooking instructions for families trying to introduce more bulk cooking into their life.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you for being here, Lynn. Lauren, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm excited to be back here.
Amazing.
I'm Lauren. I live in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I have been studying virtual reality since I got my master's in VR in London about 3 years ago. I'm a producer, and I've worked on a lot of different simulations and games, all kind of educational based. So I think that VR is a really great tool to teach people to learn to do a new school and to get repetition in. I just got my drones pilot's license, so I'm looking to get into real estate photography and just more cinematography in general. And yeah, I'm excited to be back here. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren. Thank you for being here. All right, last but not least, Vernon, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Hello, everybody. My name is Vernon Ruffin. I'm an associate professor at Virginia Union, and I also have my own business, the Ruffin Neuro Lab. It's used for helping STEM professionals and students get into STEM careers. And I also build immersive reality spaces for the learning experience. So that's how I'm relevant to the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I have one more pop on. Sarah, how are you?
Okay, here I am. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Demister, And I come from the world of storytelling, education, and energy, where they all intersect. I'm an actor and filmmaker, and I also worked as a teacher, teaching meditation, theater, and well-being to children, especially during the pandemic. And all that led me to create the Chin Show, which is a kids series around well-being and educating children around natural foods and their potential, and connecting them with the natural world, earth, their bodies. And my work is rooted in the belief that everything is energy, and that's how we relate to food, nature, and each other is all vibrational. So I'm really excited about this conversation. I've got really deep interest in how we can nurture a healthier, more soulful relationship with food, especially for our children who are growing up in this fast-paced, screen-driven world. I'm honored to be part of the conversation. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Well, as you can see, we have a pretty packed panel. A lot of different experience, different diverse backgrounds as well. So let's get into this first question, which is what characteristics distinguish a sustainable, healthy, global food culture? I'm going to start with you, Adam. What are your thoughts on this question?
It's a good question. Without being an expert on global food culture, what I would like to bring to this particular question is leveraging the tech that we have to focus on transparency, to focus on better agreements, perhaps even financial agreements between producers or farmers and consumers. Hopefully, cutting out unnecessary middlemen. This actually, there can be a lot of this particular question focused just on the tea industry, just on its face, because transparency is a big driving force within the tea industry, but it's still somewhat new in the last 10, maybe 15 years, and it's a very old industry with a really an unpleasant history when it comes to tea and spices. So that's kind of my brief answer that I'd like to just add to this question.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm gonna pose this a different question, which is how can we define what a sustainable, healthy global food culture is? Just to begin with, before we start talking about the characteristics that make it up, what does that look like? Ian, what are your thoughts? What do you believe a sustainable, healthy global food culture looks like?
I think so. Modern people live a very busy life, so they don't find enough time for having enjoyable meal together with their loved ones. So highly capitalized world, like even in Korea, people busy preparing for their work early in the morning, and they just rush, and then they just grab some sort of like a cereal or some milk, and then they don't have enough time to have delicious food with their family members in the evening time, because they have to work late. So in my opinion, modern society needs more. We need the mental space to enjoy nutritious meals with our loved ones. I think that's the most important thing, I guess.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And I was reading about how just eating a meal with other people alone can improve your mental well-being, right? And so I think, Sarah, you mentioned about how we're living in such a fast-paced time in this world where everybody's on the go, from kids to adults. It seems like everyone is moving at such a rapid pace. And so something as simple as just taking time to eat with someone can already improve your well-being. So kind of dive deeper into that,
Yeah.
Sarah. How do you think that correlates with just a sustainable, healthy global food culture?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was brought up by in France. I was born there, and by French people. And in the French culture, you take 2 full hours you stop work and you have a full meal at the lunch table. At the dining room table, and you really eat and digest and take a little nap even. It's like, it's part of the culture. Now, I haven't been back to say, but I go back to for the holidays, and it is getting a little bit more and more lost. These, you know, the 2 hours, which were 3 before, then it was 2, and now it's getting shorter and shorter. But this time, this communion with the food is so important, because it reminds us, it reconnects us with the earth, and it honors the earth as a living system, not just a resource to extract from, but a source to connect with. And taking time and bringing consciousness into this connection is vital. I mean, is vital for our health, is vital for our inner peace and happiness. I think we should. I mean, we should. I don't want to say it. I don't like the shoulda, woulda, coulda, but valuing the energy of nourishment, not just the physical form of, you know, what it looks like, or what it really having. It's like a meditation. I mean, this time to commune with food is a sort of meditation, and I'm not saying like close your eyes and you know, keep the food in your mouth, but really commune, connect, communicate with what the energy that you're intaking and that you're having a relationship with. So yeah, I definitely encourage people, adults and children, to interact with food through curiosity and joy and gratitude and consciousness. That's what I try to do through the Chin Show, for example. I think just that will help us make the wiser choice for our bodies and the earth just automatically.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so good. Thank you for sharing that in school, and thank you for mentioning France too. I spent the last couple of years in France, and Adam and I actually we partnered on a tea event together in Paris, and there is that culture of just everyone taking a break to enjoy a meal and not really rushing through, but just sitting down, enjoying that, being at peace. And there was something else that I noticed in France that was very inspiring. It was their culture around food waste. And there was this app, I forgot the name of it, but I would use it often. And basically it was this app that allowed for restaurants to give away food, like food that was left over at the end of the day, for a really cheap amount. And I never seen that before until I was in France. And it made me realize, like, wow, there's so much food waste that could be used in an innovative way, right, to help people who may just not have the resources to buy a full meal still be able to eat. Right. And that leads into the next question, which is what collaborations can communities, governments, and innovators create to address hunger and food waste? And so I'm going to bring that to you, Lynn.
What collaborations can community address world hunger waste? I think collaboration with grocery stores and nonprofits to collect the food is a huge, because there is so much food waste. And that's a cultural thing, but it's a corporate thing, right? There are people that would collect the food. So I think it gets even to laws then. So then it's a government thing that they make these laws that we can't give away this food. But I think using creative ways to use the food waste. And then one thing that I'm really passionate about is this idea of bulk cooking, because if you are getting a bunch of produce and it's getting near its expiration date, it needs to be used quickly. And this kind of brings in this other idea of family cooking. Like, kids need to know how to use knives instead of guns. So it's like we get all of these groceries on a Saturday, and culturally kind of tapping in the idea of food culture. We need a cooking day. Maybe that's what we do on Sundays after people go to church, is chop all the vegetables for the week and really get into this idea of food prep. Because that's another thing a lot of the families don't have time to, even if the food can be collected and then chopped on a site, like at a food kitchen, and be given to the families prep so that they can still at least practice cooking, adding the rice, adding the beans. So I think it's collaborations with the grocery stores, but at the end of the day, it's government. And I don't know if those are local rules or state laws, but it's about using common sense and stop thinking about money and thinking about people.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And I think a lot of progress can be started just within a small community, right? When you think about some major movements that even happen in the US, right? They don't start at the government level. They start small rooms, small families, small communities. And the more that they grow, then, right, they might get to that government level. But I like what you shared there with the idea of having a cooking day within communities. That seems really, that seems like it could be really beneficial. And Lauren, you as a storyteller, what collaborations can you see between communities, governments, corporations that could address food hunger and waste?
So I was on the panel right before this, and I was talking a little bit about how there's a lot of apps that create community, and you can like share what you're eating, and you can share recipes and stuff like that. So I think that's a really good way to inspire each other, especially instead of like going out to eat or buying something that's kind of like a prepackaged meal. I think when you have these communities where you can share like, look what I made today, kind of thing, or like, here's how I made this, and inspire each other, that's a really powerful tool that we can use. And then we know exactly what's going into our food, and that's just really great for overall awareness.
Yeah, that's so good. Vernon, as you as a educator, right? I'm sure you deal with many different people, communities. In your perspective, what collaborations do you see that could exist, if they don't exist already, that could address hunger and food waste?
Well, I think to reiterate what has already been stated, we definitely need the government involved, because they are really deciding what roles go into play. But you do need the communities to actually implement these different strategies. But you also need innovators, so people that are thinking of creative ways to use resources that are not currently being used to full capacity. As an educator, I think making sure that people have understanding of the process. I think we don't really pay too much attention nowadays to how the food actually got here. We just see the food, we appreciate the food, we eat it, and sometimes we don't even eat it all. But there's a process from its growth to its, the whole steps. And I think if they recognize that humans are involved in all of these things, it brings unity and it makes awareness. And I do agree with that cooking day, because really it's the traditions, the cultural traditions, not trying to take somebody's food from a different culture and design it to be something for mass consumption. You're losing the cultural significance of even those dishes. So I think awareness and knowledge at a young age and it being implemented into part of our society would make it sustainable and force those collaborations.
Yeah, that's good. Are there any food systems that we can create from a young age that would just play into more awareness and really bring humanizing food more? You, Sarah, you work with kids. Are you seeing that? Or
Well, I worked in French schools actually in Los Angeles, and being in Los Angeles, we the weather permits, and this school did have a garden, and I thought that was really, really lovely. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of. It's been a little put to the side, and math curriculum took over, which math is important, but we can also have a balance. So I would say partnerships between schools and farms that teach kids the energetic cycle of food, from soil to seed to sprout, like really get them involved in that like not as an after school program, not as a if we have time, not as a there's some sort of little garden over there at the in the back of the school. No, like really being part of that cycle. I think would be really important. And if the school doesn't have the grounds to do that, they can always bring in something indoors, like a herb garden, just to get the children connected to that cycle of life.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I was reading and I learned that kids who garden are 5 times more likely to eat vegetables. Right. So that's how crazy is that? And then Lynn, I saw you just said that one of your core memories was making green eggs and ham in kindergarten. Right. It's like that was a core memory for you. So talk about that. How did for one, how did that become a core memory, and how do you think that has affected your relationship with food over time?
Maybe it's just because it was green, but I mean, I think the bigger thing was I had a mom, a stay-at-home mom for a big part of my life that cooked every night. We had a cooked meal. So I grew up, and sometimes the vegetables were always from a can. Very rarely did we have fresh vegetables, but still it was that idea of seeing the preparation. And then in this one, I think we actually made it ourselves, right? So we just like squeeze the green food dye in. But there was just something that about that memory of like, of all the memories that I have of kindergarten, the biggest one is around food, right? About we made some sort of meal, which we probably didn't do much of, and then we ate it, and it was like, felt really good.
Yeah,
With the kids gardening, it needs to be a mandatory. It's as
Yes.
important as math.
Yes.
You can map out the area that you need to make the bed and how much volume of dirt you need,
Yes.
and like so much math in gardening. So
Love it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then what's the relationship there between just physically having to use your hands as a kid, right? Having to use your hands, create something, and then eat it and feel that nourishment, feel that strength from it. It makes me think about just the process of making tea, right, Adam, which you're an expert in. Like, what is the relationship between having that entire process from finding something, curating it, heating it, boiling it, mixing other things, and then, intaking it and having this effect on your body? Kind of how does that system work?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it also parallels this question that's in front of us right now on the screen. The story of tea is the story of human collaboration. Every single part of tea, the fact that I'm drinking this particular tea right now, the fact that it came from Yunnan in southwest China, which is very far away from Los Angeles, not just geographically, but also culturally. The fact that what I'm drinking and how I'm preparing it had involved so many people, so many hands. The fact that it's not just tea, but also food. It really involves human beings, like as Vernon was saying just a few minutes ago. It's to move beyond just seeing the food in front of us, like what kind of be able to track that story of how the food got there, where it was grown. If you are buying, even here in Southern California, if we're buying blueberries in the grocery store right now, it's likely because of the season. They're coming from Chile or somewhere really far away, because we want to have that access to blueberries in an off-season time. So it's like tapping into our own innate curiosity as human beings, like, what's in season? What season are we in right now? What is grown in season? How can we access that or highlight, those foods or those vegetables within season? Like, is there a farmer's market nearby you? Maybe there is. And for instance, with me and my family, we go even beyond a farmer's market. There's an urban farm that's part of a magnet high school. So talk about gardening as curriculum. I think it's really much a part of this technical high school here nearby us in Northeast LA. So I'm there every Saturday morning to engage with the CSA. And so all of which to say, again, not just what you asked, Christian, but regarding this question, it's like really remembering and highlighting in more ways than one, the fact that, food creation or food distribution or food growing, like, involves actual human beings, not, it's sort of stripping away these labels of like consumers or users or like just numbers, and just like having to navigate all these systems through just purely capitalistic, vernacular. It's like we're all human beings from the soil all the way to, to our plates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm curious, Ian, bringing this to you. You being in Korea, are there food systems that are specific to your culture that you feel like really prioritize human dignity and nutrition or cultural identity?
I would like to focus on the parts of hunger. Like many people are still
please.
like hunger, and then while lots of like a huge amount of food is being wasted. But the thing is, like we have lots of fancy technologies, AI, and lots of like management information system and all these things, and then we don't really fully utilize these technologies for distributing food like to the world, and especially where there are many people who are starving. Especially, if I think about the knowledge or the skills of farmers and fishers, they are not really knowledgeable, and they are not familiar with the digital device or digital like literacy. So I think governments and communities and like even like innovators needs to help that, like so that they can learn more about the digital system, and this, they can connect it. They can share their the information about supply of food and production and distribution stuff. And then, if they fully take advantage of this sort of technologies, I'm pretty sure lots of parents in like in terms of hunger, and these sort of problems could be like much more alleviated, I think. But unfortunately, like seems like there are not many innovators who utilize this sort of system, and there are not. It seems like there are not many governments who fully educate those people in the primary industry. So I think that's what we do right now.
Yeah, and that's really good. And I'm hearing this common thread of education in all of these responses, from educating children in the classrooms or in gardens, from governments educating farmers, like you said, Ian, on digital literacy. It seems like education is a common thread in these responses, which I find really interesting. And I want to bring it back to Vernon as an educator. What do you think are some, I guess, some methods or strategies that just humans, even if they're not educators by trade, right? How can they, even in their families, just be more intentional about education when it comes to food systems, when it comes to cooking, hunger, waste? Like, what role can we play just as humans in educating about food?
I think food in general, just the concept of the process needs to be woven into everyday society. So like when you talk about fruits, for example, or anything that's grown, there should be some type of, I'm imagining as a professor, like instructional thing that gives the origin of the whatever. So you know what actually you're eating, and you know how to recognize when it's not that. And I think when you talk about, different ways to get food, they should be aware of, take a trip to a farm and see how the process is actually taking place. Talk to the farmer, talk to the people involved in the process, so that you can see as a kid that this is actually even an option for your career, and not even your main career, but just as a person, you should have the ability to grow and produce and be sustainable, at the very least, with things that you enjoy eating. Like potatoes, for example. And in school, I think it starts with those simple projects where you get a seed and you try to grow the seed, and then you learn about photosynthesis, and you learn about all the different things that go into the cellular processes that eventually we're eating and it becomes us. So I think seeing the connectivity is important.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And I didn't realize this is one of the questions that was given before this panel, but it is, how can food education become a daily practice in families and communities? So Vernon, you just spoke to that, and then Adam, you shared in the chat that your daughter's a part of a charter in LA where there's a side yard full of veg and herbs that they've been cultivated over the past 3 years. So just you as a parent, how have you seen that type of food education just inspire your daughter and cultivate her relationship with food?
Yeah, just to keep it brief. I mean, it sort of removes the abstraction. It's not a product that's just in a market. It's also something that we've grown, or you've grown, or you've brought back from school, or we talked about. Like sometimes there are like bank holidays, breaks in between, somewhere interspersed throughout the school year, and so there might be like camps at the side yard garden for a couple days within this, let's say, week off. And so like it creates that continuity, so that that's always somehow in some way that remains a constant. Like at some point, like hands are in the soil in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, Nah, I love that. I love that. And Lynn, what are your thoughts? How do you think food education can become a daily practice? You gave a few ideas, but what are some additional ways?
Well, the one thing that came to mind is like getting really deep and stepping into the shamama vibe and like letting go of this notion that there isn't enough time, because time is a construct and we will have time for what we create time for. And these bodies are our temples. And so there is actually nothing more important than food. And so whether it's a 5-minute practice of kids picking some rest, I'm using AI. I'll be like, I have this in my cupboard, give me some recipes that I can make. So I'm like making my own recipe based on what I have that day. For me, it's vegan, like baked goods that are using fruits and stuff. So the idea of using technology, 5 minutes a day, have your kids pick a recipe. The idea of gratitude over food. Gratitude for our food is going to change the way we eat, because when we're grateful for our food, we're grateful for our body, and there will be a natural shift in energy to want to nourish ourselves more. So it's really about the mindset and first making the choice that it's more important, because I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but like Amy, your fireside chat is like, the food system is corrupt and evil. There is no BSing that. And so we need to override it at a family and a community level, because they're not going to change the shelves until there's a really big tipping point. And so it's changing the way we cook, changing the way we shop. And it is really uncomfortable. It is a lot, which is Lauren recognized online communities. We need support, moms, the ones that do the cooking, the ones that are coming up against the people that love the Doritos and like in the house. So it's, it is a community and a family effort. I am a single person and I don't have children. And that's why I'm able to have a really high vibrational, strict diet. And when you get kids and partners, and it really changes, because we do need to eat as community, but when everybody has different likes and different ideas, it gets challenging. So I think daily practice, 5-minute conversations about foods and outcomes as a family, like what do we want as a family, and then making little choices not to buy that thing, to buy this thing, and allowing a slow evolution, because us humans, we have such an all or nothing, the first of the year we set these, we're going to change our diet and do everything different. And for me, becoming a vegan was a 5-year, from the first day I decided I wasn't going to eat meat to the last time I ate meat was 5 years. And then it was like another couple years. It was like, I never put pressure on myself. I knew where I was going and I just kept going there. And I kept making each meal a choice. So
yeah, no, that's so good. And you really highlight that education is a lifelong process, and big changes can be made with just small steps, right? Mm-hmm. 1,000 steps starts with one. So love what you said about just 5 minutes of just talking about food, or taking a short moment, 30 seconds to express gratitude for your food, right? It doesn't have to be these really big changes right at the beginning. They can really start small. So I'm glad you shared that. I believe in that. And Sarah, I want to bring this to you. What do you believe are some ways that we can integrate food education as a daily practice? Is there some of that through the Chin Show? And if so, like how, kind of talk and share that with us.
Yeah, well, I'm all about that. I want to add a few things. I'm going to bring in the French culture again, just because they're heavy on the food culture. Because I experienced school, like the cafeteria in France as a kid, and then a cafeteria in America, because I did both systems. And in France, we would have, the entree and the main course and the dessert, and it was all food that, non-processed foods. It was, cucumbers and tomatoes and like mashed potatoes. I mean, it was like real food. And then when I got here, and then we had, an hour and a half. We had half an hour to eat and then an hour to go play and digest. And then here was a completely different, it was, it was like we had choice between 3 processed things, like a processed pizza and things that just were very appetizing anyway. And also I want to mention, when you get to college, you have the colleges, or the neighborhood in the colleges are a lot of like fast food places are strategically placed there. When you go to Pasadena City College, you have a Jack in the Box and a thing, you have like 3 fast food places, and that's not right. That's a big issue, I would say. And I think we would benefit so much from uplifting indigenous, ancestral, local knowledge, which carry the energetic wisdom about balance and seasonability. I studied. I have just to backtrack. My mom. I was the first of 3 children, and my mom, when she had me, she's like, "Oh, she did everything right." So she fed me very natural foods. She would go to farmers market, and so I had that base. And then throughout my whole life, I've always been healthy, but I've always ventured and the raw food thing, and then vegan, and and really try to understand like what my seasons were. And I studied Ayurveda, which is it's the ancient shamanic Vedic system of eating healthy and based on the 5 elements. And it's all about depending on your body type and the season and the time of day and all that, and where you are located and what you have access to. That was a fascinating study that really brought a lot of answers to questions I had in terms of what to eat. And that with all this experience and this education that I went through by myself, really, and learning about all these ancient cultures and ancestral wisdom, I infuse the Chinsha with that, because I want to offer children options. Like, you don't have to, you have options, and empowering them with a choice, because I believe that if the child has a class time where they put their hands in the soil and grow a plant, and then they go on the computer, now they have a choice, like what feels best. Because when you are connecting with earth and the vibration of soil, you have that in you. And then when you get on the iPad or your phone, when it's too much. Like, you start, it's a different vibration, it lowers, but we have to give them the choice. We have to introduce both to them, or else there's no choice, and that's disempowering. So that's what I want to do with the Shinshu. I'm not telling what to eat, what to do, but I do want to introduce things that are not introduced in general mainstream culture or even at school.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that so much, because with more options, when you discover more, your mind expands and you have a wider perspective, and then you have a easier decision. Not even an easier decision, but just a wider, I guess, list of options to choose from. Yeah, it could be a more
decision,
you have an intuitive decision. That's 100% right. And so we talked about like the education part of things and how we can just incorporate food education to children, and how even governments can play a role in that. But now let's talk about some of the risks that we're facing, or our young people are facing. And this next question, I'm going to start with you, Ian, for this, and then go to Lauren and then Vernon. But the question is, what are the long-term risks of raising generations who know food through packaging and screens rather than soil growth and seasons?
I mean, I guess, if they just consume like packaged food, or like processed food, which means they're not gonna have enough time with like their friends or family members. Which means also they are not gonna find enough time for sort of like the time for sharing love, and then playing with each other, and then having a quality time. So I think with this sort of generation, with this sort of mindset, I think the society will be also like continues to be individualized and capitalized. And we need to kind of change our society using our like AI technologies. I'm pretty sure like human labor can be like leveraged by this sort of technology, and then we can have more time, and then still creating lots of social values and sort of with income. Hopefully, in the future, I think many experts have mentioned about the concept of UBI, universal basic income. So it's probably in the future, as we have basic income, we might have time to have a delicious, nutritious meal together with others, rather than just working like a dog all the time. So I think, that's what I think.
Amazing. No, thank you for sharing that, Lauren. Bringing this over to you. What are some of those long-term risks of raising generations who know food through packaging rather than actual soil growth and seasons?
So a big one is just not really knowing where the food comes from, and this also reduces environmental stewardship. So it's harder for people to make sustainable choices in the long term, that being for our own bodies and for the environment. And whenever you understand the process of farming and stuff like that, then you understand like what goes into it, and you can appreciate it better than whether it's just made in like a factory. And then also most of the packaged foods are just really high in sugars and fats, and they're ultra processed, which isn't good for us. And they have less nutrition, so lower fibers and micronutrients. And then this end result contributes to like obesity and heart disease, which is one of the leading causes of death and the biggest problems in America today. So I think having the awareness of knowing that the less processed our foods are, the better it is for us, and the longer and healthier life we're going to live is a good overall goal that we can work towards. And with screens, I just think it's really important to have social interaction, and that also be going outside and playing. And you're never too old to play. Like even as adults, I think it's important that we go outside, we spend time in nature. We just got our first snow here for the first time, and it's really beautiful outside. And I think that just going outside and like taking a walk around and getting fresh air, especially like if you have a dog like I do, is really important. And it's just something that fuels my soul. And I think that the more time that we spend on screens, the less our attention's going to get, and we're just going to lose touch with that. And I really think it is important to actively spend time outside with your friends and family and people that you care about.
No, I agree. And food is a great way to do that. Food is fun, right? Making food is fun, and getting your hands dirty is fun. Trying new ingredients, new spices, all of that can be fun if you take the time and let it, right? And so unfortunately we have to wrap this up, but I want to ask one last question to everyone and go around the circle here. And just a quick thought, whatever comes to mind with this question here. But the question is, how can communities reclaim healthy, mindful eating in our society, a society focused on speed, convenience, and economic demands? Let's start with you, Vernon.
Well, I think that if people just slow down and just, I think people aren't as patient as they used to be. And so if they can just take the time to be patient, then they would recognize that all of the steps involved are actually necessary. And to learn actually what's actually happening at the nutritional level, they won't really respect nature if they don't understand the process that we need nature in order to be sustained and alive. So I think knowledge and just, making sure people are aware of what's happening is the key. And communication also.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Vernon. And I'm getting notes that we have to round this up, everyone. Unfortunately, I know, but this has been a great conversation, and I encourage everyone watching to connect with everyone here on the panel, and panelists connect with each other as well. And GatherVerse team, thank you again for hosting us all here, and looking forward to the next one. But thank you all for joining with us today. Our gather was well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Choose life-giving foods. Choose life-giving foods. Yeah. It's so important if you want to stay alive and empowered.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.